I want to know those facts. I want them objectively determined.
Grief, the anger, the just utter shock. I've seen the devastation.
You can see it in her face. She stays calm. But think about this. She has the city to take care of. She does not have time to hear from these reports. Ooh, y'all done got me upset.
She's had a great response so far to the fires.
Absolutely agree.
You a simp!
The drama continues here, guys, because DEI has been blamed for a lot of these fires because that's all they focused on. They said it was their number one goal. We've had climate change because these radical leftists just can't take accountability for anything to save their life. And now we have yet another reason, racism, because these woke black actresses, Yvette, Nicole Brown, and Kim Whitley, they just couldn't help themselves but try to defend the sister, okay, the black lesbian leader who prioritizes DEI above all. They couldn't help but defend the sister and say that, well, the only reason she's being criticized and is taking the blame here is because of racism.
Let me tell you something. She's got a spine of steel.
Yes.
And she's also been a black woman in America a very long time. So none of this is new to her. We're mad because we're tired of it.
We're
tired
mad for her.
But we're mad for her. And we're going to stand. Listen, I don't know how you here, but I'm happy you're here. Because somebody needs to
stand, behind her and support her. Because how is she handling it? You can see it in her face. She stays calm. But think about this. She has the city to take care of. She does not have time to hear from these reporters.
And she is also not mayor of every municipality in California.
Yes.
There are people that are mad that she didn't fix the fires in Malibu. She's not the mayor of Malibu.
You're right.
What is she supposed to do in a city she's not the mayor of?
People don't understand.
And let me say this too. I could imagine how much it would hurt to see this happening in the city that she loves. That's first. So take away how it feels for people to attack her. She's heartbroken because this is happening in her city, a city that she loves.
And the people don't understand. They don't understand how large it is because a lot of people are sitting in other parts of the city. They're not in it. They're not in the fire. They're not in the smoke. They don't see. They're not there. They're watching TV. Why? And they want to blame someone. This is not the time to blame. It's time to get some resources. She has reached out far. We have planes coming in from other countries to help us. This is not the time. I need everybody to remain calm, be vigilant, support the leadership, support Karen Bass. That's all I can say. You cannot. It's not the time. Ooh, y'all done got me upset.
She's had a great response so far to the fires.
Absolutely a great. She has done what she's had to do. She's jumped in there, and she's got.
We have fires every year, and I don't remember in the 30 years almost that I've lived in LA, I've never seen everybody react like this to the mayor and blame one person for a natural disaster.
Yes.
I've never seen it. Now, what's different this time? Interesting, isn't it?
You said that. Amen, sister.
Now, guys, you gotta get tired of hearing this stupid excuse. I almost feel like find me a black leader in any role that has been criticized and tell me when you have not heard racism brought into it when they're criticized. Some people would try to refute that by saying, oh, well, that's because it's racism every single time. It's never that they just suck as leaders. It's always got to be something else. And the thing that's stupid here is that Gavin Newsom is the main person that's being blamed. A lot of people still don't even know Karen Bass's name. Even though all of this is going on, some people, if you're not affected, they don't even care. But a lot of people do know Gavin Newsom because he's been around for ages effing up California. As a matter of fact, he went and ran to some left-wing hacks podcast to try to complain and say, I need to figure out what's going on. This guy is so confused.
You're ultimately responsible as the governor of the state.
Of course. I want to know the answers. So I'm the governor of California. I want to know the answer. I've got that question. I can't tell you about how many people, what happened. My own team saying what happened. And I want to get the answers. And I'll be candid with you, I wasn't getting straight answers.
Yeah.
I watched the press conference. I met with some of those leaders. We had my team start talking to local leaders, saying what's going on. Our state.
And you weren't getting straight answers from the
I was
local
getting
leaders.
different answers. And so for me, that's not a story. When you start getting different answers, then I'm not getting the actual story. And they're assessing it. And I get that as well. You have to a little bit of grace, back to the point. We're in this emergency environment and everything else. So I just want to determine the facts. But no one has any patience anymore. In this weaponized, back to the grievance of Trump, everyone else, there's immediacy. And lies travel the proverbial world. And it's hard to get the facts out there unless you have the backing of those facts and you can communicate them soberly. And so that's what we're trying to achieve.
So all of us want to know those answers, and I just don't want to wait because people are asking me. I want to know those facts. I want them objectively determined, and that the chips fall where they may. This is not about finger pointing.
You say what to people who insist that these independent investigations or calls for them, are you passing the blame onto other people?
How could it be when we're doing an independent investigation and we just want the adjudication of the facts? As I say, it's not about finger pointing. It's about answering the questions you and everybody wants answered. And I think there's a propensity to wait to answer those questions. And people want immediacy. They want response and responsiveness. And so that's the idea.
Ultimately here, does the buck stop with you?
I mean, you're governor of California. You might as well be the mayor of California. We're all in this together. We're all better off, and we're all better off, and we're all better off, and we're working together to take care of people and to make sure people are supported. We're empathetic, and we're here not just in the immediacy of the crisis, but we're here after the crisis, as opposed to creating a crisis in the middle of this by trying to divide people and play political, take cheap political shots.
Imagine, guys, this is so stupid. I can't help but laugh at this dude. How are you the governor and you're saying, yeah, we need to figure out what's going on? We need to figure out what is happening. What is happening in the state that I govern? I'm confused. I don't know what's happening. Stephen A. Smith, I just posted a video yesterday of him turning. Like he's been basically completely red-pilled on the Democrat. Now, I don't know if he's ever going to actually vote Republican, but everything that he talks about day after day is him criticizing the radical authoritarian, tyrannical left. And today is the same thing because he went on Dave Rubin's show and he criticized him again.
I like Gavin Newsom, the governor of Florida, from the standpoint as a person. Like, in other words,
that's a rare comment said in this room.
Nice person to talk to, because I've had conversations with him in the past. Highly intelligent individual, looks very sharp and very presidential in those suits. And then you see what's going on in California, you're like, nah. That's not me. These high taxes, the homelessness, the crime rate, etc. I'm looking at all of this unfolding because you have to remember I've been going back and forth to LA and New York a lot, pretty much since 2003. And so I see that and I see the regression that has taken place. And so when people are going off, particularly folks on the left, and they're talking about these policies and what policies are better and what's not, and then I see folks on the right talking about real life issues and stuff like that, I'm like, I hate to admit it, they make a lot of sense. They make a lot of sense. Because
now, even though Stephen A. didn't obviously vote for Trump and voted for Kamala for reasons that even he can't fully explain, I'll at least give him credit for calling out the points, because even if he voted for Kamala, I can guarantee you that some people watching his show were like, well, Stephen A., I was going to vote for Kamala too. But after hearing what you said and all the criticisms, I just can't help but have the gears connect and turn in my brain and realize that perhaps Donald Trump is the solution to all my problems. And even Stephen A., of course, agrees with that as well. But you got these hacks, well, at least one hack on Rising, this lady, Linda, whatever her name is, versus Amber Duke. Now, for those of y'all who know anything about Rising on the Hill, Amber is totally based in pretty much almost everybody else on that show is either somewhere in the middle or to the left. Amber is the only one who makes sense. She's not some far right person, but you know how that is these days. If you're to the right of Bernie Sanders, you're pretty much a alt-right, radical, MAGA cultist. And that's how they treat Amber here, but she's the only one who makes sense. I'm going to go ahead and react to this with you guys so I can point out how stupid this Linda lady is.
He writes, defenders of the mayor claim that criticism of her absence is unfair, given that there was no way for her to know when the crisis would strike. That, however, is not true. Her office was well aware of the risk, and she still traveled abroad. Mayor, obviously devastating situation here. There's a lot of politics around this. Both sides, you've got the Democrats blaming climate change. You've got the Republicans blaming the Democrats. What do you make of the claims about DEI initiatives in the Los Angeles Fire Department and government, potentially diverting attention away from what should be a fire department's number one goal, which is ultimately fighting fires.
I mean, honestly, Amber, at first glance, when you look at the numbers, there's something to unpack here, right? There was a more than $17 million reduction in budget for the firefighters in LA.
Not
the timing
good.
couldn't possibly be worse. We heard from Mayor Bass that her understanding, as much as she did talk about the budget, was that a lot of that shortfall was covered by simply not filling positions that were open. All that said, I mean, there clearly are some things that need
How
to...
is that okay? Have y'all, I know y'all worked at an organization where somebody leaves. They're like, oh, don't worry, we're going to replace them. Don't worry. And then eventually, since you're kind of keeping up, you're working like twice as hard. They're like, well, I mean, seems like we're doing just fine. But the whole time you're like pretty much freaking drowning, gasping for air, coughing up smoke like a lot of people in this damn fire.
Be evaluated after we get through this phase of crisis. I think the most important thing is anytime we're talking about politics, policy, and real people's lives, we've got to get through this moment of crisis, and then we should absolutely take a deep look.
I don't know. I think it's okay to start talking about it now because of the fact that you do have these people trying to already skirt accountability. And when I see these tweets from Bernie Sanders about climate change and from people like Gavin Newsom, it seems like they're trying to pass the buck before we've even gotten to understanding what exactly the reasons for this fire being able to spread so quickly were. And to your point about that $17 million reduction in the fire department's budget, meanwhile, we look at some of the other things that the city was willing to spend its money on. As Mayor Bass herself says, we're in, quote, tough budgetary times. We have $100,000 for a midnight stroll transgender cafe, $8,670 for an exhibit at a gay and lesbian museum called Sci-Fi Magic Queer LA, $13,000 for Transgender Heritage Month, $14,000 for the Gay Men's Chorus of Los Angeles. I think when you are talking about all the lives being lost, these people should absolutely have to answer for their complete mismanagement of their priorities.
Well, I mean, I think there is a discussion to be had about where money is being spent. However, I don't think that discounts the larger point that Senator Sanders and former State Representative Nina Turner were talking about, which is there are things that policy can address, but climate...
You see how this lady completely dismissed everything? Like, okay, they're spending money on this stuff, they're prioritizing these other things, but I don't know. Well, the larger point is climate change. Why and how? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Climate change is real, and climate change is the root of all of this extreme weather that we're seeing, the increased dryness that has been a very serious factor in the fires that we're seeing all around LA right now. And their point is that at whatever moment we feel is appropriate, we have to address the root causes here in addition to any sort of issues that happened on the ground.
I'm not buying their explanation, I guess, that that climate change was the reasoning for this fire. There was an article in the New York Times yesterday where they quoted several fire experts, and they said actually this was just sort of a bunch of crazy coincidences coming together with the winds coming from the Santa Ana winds, and now we've heard that maybe these fires were caused by an arsonist as opposed to rather than them being naturally occurring. And what I always find super interesting about the environmentalist left's claims about climate change is that at the same time, they don't want to take the actions that are necessary to prevent wildfires from spreading so rapidly.
Bingo.
Whether it's doing controlled burns, whether it's clearing out underbrush in the forest. In this case, in California, we know that 95% of California's water gets dumped back into the Pacific Ocean, not because the Pacific Ocean is running out of water, but because they're worried about protecting an endangered smelt fish. So it feels like there's a cognitive dissonance there where the left talks about climate change, we got to throw money at the problem, but they don't really seem to know that much about the environment and actually stopping these wildfires.
Ding, 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 you win the prize. Now, this Linda lady tries to go on and basically keep arguing this point and focusing exclusively on climate change. It's a long discussion, so I don't want to react to the entire thing, but I think you guys get the picture. There's preventative measures that you could take, and there's a bunch of things that you could do to be prepared for the incident to occur. Okay, you could take preventative measures to stop it, and you can take precautionary measures that are preliminary, preemptive measures because you know that the event will inevitably occur. They failed on both of those. Okay, so to try to just climate change And, well, we need to wait until this is over. This Linda lady sounds like a propagandist. She doesn't sound like somebody who's being objective here, because objectively, they should have done better with the water. They should not have had the budget cuts. And if you're going to talk about root cause, you can also do that and focus on how you could have better handled the incident, which she didn't seem to have any interest in talking about. She just wanted to focus exclusively on climate change. She considered that the bigger issue. These are not real journalists, guys, besides Amber here, but this other lady is not a real journalist. Like, this lady is a propagandist arm of the radical left. Like, she is just another tool, another pawn, like effectively a wrench. You just use the wrench, you throw it in your trunk, throw it in your tool chest, and forget about it until you need to twist some bolts again. And it's unfortunate that there are so many people like this. They're blaming racism. Gavin Newsom doesn't know what's going on. They continually blaming climate change. Effectively, these people are setting the stage to not take any accountability for anything and just blame things that effectively is going to amount to it being Republicans' fault. Remember, I told you guys they're going to find a way to blame Donald Trump, and it looks like I was right.
Donald Trump and his allies are injecting half-truths, misinformation, and flat-out lies in some cases in order to score a version of political points, I suppose.
Because a lot of these climate cultist types are just going to say, well, they haven't done enough for climate change, even though Joe Biden is president, including right now. Kamala Harris, vice president. They got a Democrat majority in the Senate, right? They have a Democrat mayor and governor. There's a lot of stuff that they could have done to combat climate change, but they didn't. And climate change is a global phenomenon, not a United States phenomenon. So what are you going to do about the rest of the world? How do you, let's say you can't do anything. What if you can't do nothing? What do you do to mitigate the risk? What do you do to lower the risk factors? They failed on that. That's what they need to be held accountable for. I'm tired of these people bringing up climate change, something that's a global phenomenon, and we don't have global control. And we don't need to have global control because we don't want a bunch of radical leftists controlling the government, because eventually that's what it would amount to. Trump's only going to be around for so long. We need people that are actual leaders who know how to handle things operationally on a day-to-day basis, not a bunch of hacks who are just going to blame the environment for their failures at a local and state level. These people are pathetic. Newsom needs to go. Stephen A. called it.
They got to go. You know what? They got to go. I don't give a damn if they do. After what I've seen last week, they got to go. I'm done. I'm done, Kevin.
I'm in agreement with them, but let me know what you guys think. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I appreciate y'all watching the Black Anomaly Rising channel. I'm out.
So all of us want to know those answers.
I want to know the answers. So I'm the governor of California. I want to know the answer. I get.
Now what? Look at you. Stupid. Now I'm stupid, huh? I look stupid. That's what you're thinking? You look stupid. Dumb.